meeting follow-up. Does anybody have anything from last week? Anything like that? Questions?
So we did on the grid as far as, and I know the answer, but as far as I was kind of thinking the liquor license stuff with the resort license and drive up window and those things were going to come up earlier, but maybe we could discuss just quickly what's going on with that, because is what I was told was it's all going to get combined. See that, I think, at the work session July 28th.
For the liquor license or the resort, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
all combined is what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted.
If it's going to be earlier or if it's going to.
No, because that's not the way I thought it was going to happen.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I didn't know if anybody had any updates on.
Mayor and council, I understand Floor had a conversation with Councilor Sweeney talking about how we will approach that in kind of two sections and dealing with the one section within the time frame that is necessary to accommodate forthcoming catering permit, I believe it is, for the Indian relays. And Floor, feel free to stand up and chime in. I'm pulling up your email. So yes, the longer term policy issues will be pushed out. The more imminent issue of ordinance change for that purpose will proceed sooner and allow for that to happen. My understanding, if that is the way that we need to go with the Indian relays and fair and rodeo grounds. Did I answer your question? Am I hitting the mark?
No, I'm
Trying to
now
talk
I'm
and look at my
totally
email.
confused. Because my understanding in my conversation with Floor is everything was going to get discussed on July 28th about, I mean, please feel free. I mean, because I thought drive up windows, the resort liquor license, all of that was going to be discussed simultaneously, not.
On the 28th.
Yeah.
Your Honor, if I may, yes, so that is correct. We plan to do a quick review of all of the liquor rules, go over the resort, and then also the drive-up window, all at the same time, so that those changes, should council want to make those changes, can all happen in those three readings following the 28th. So we'll establish, I think, on the 21st for the first meeting in August, which I believe is August 4th. And so then those three readings will occur, and it will all, the ordinance will go into effect prior to the Indian relay races, which is September 19th.
Which is,
So on schedule.
I mean, really isn't, it for me wasn't part of the discussion. I was just trying to get things rolling, so.
Only thing I would add is if other counselors have ideas for longer term policy level changes that could alter and that's the unknown that I don't know and Floor doesn't know as of right now. If everybody is on the same page, then this schedule would be doable.
Yeah, I guess I maybe I heard wrong. I thought we weren't going to be able to rush it as fast as we want to, but we wanted to get it sometime in July. That's kind of how I thought, Pat. So,
Yeah.
But I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah. Anything else from meeting follow-up? Okay, awesome. All right, let's move on to Recreation Enterprise Plan dates, business.
Mayor, I think Sulima will be presenting on council. As you know, we've done part one of your business plans for recreation. This is part two. You've got three business plans Sulima is going to walk us through this evening after staff level review and also review by your Parks Advisory Board, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Share my screen here so we can cross the presentation.
Starting already.
Okay,
To the first slide.
Mayor, councilors, it's great to be with you this evening. Thank you for having us for part 2 of this important conversation. As the city manager indicated, we'll be reviewing 3 of the remaining rec enterprises tonight. We'll go over Hogadon, Casper Recreation Center, and Fort Casper Museum. But before we do that, I do want to just do a very quick recap again. This is some repeat of some information that you heard in the last presentation, but I feel like it's important just to refresh your memories about what we believe that business plans are and the goals for these updates. And then just recap the process that we went through to make updates to the business plans. And we'll go over those 3 business plans. We'll talk about the priority-based budgeting considerations that we incorporated into the business plan, strategies to generate revenue and reduce costs. And then we'll show you our 5-year performance projections and talk to you about recommendations for cost recovery goals, if any. And then after that, I had promised that I would provide a performance overall in my department of the 7 funds over a period of time. And I did some comparisons to the municipal price index. And for those of you who are not aware of what that is, I'll do just a brief recap of what the municipal price or cost index is and why I sort of chose to use that as our comparison point. And then we'll dive into those. So again, just wanted to refresh your memory that we have pretty specific goals in Parks and Recreation. We want to create opportunities for all people in the community to have a place where they feel like they belong. We want to create social connections with people. We want to encourage intergenerational connection. We want people of all ages and social and cultures to come together in the spaces where they enjoy recreating, to do the things that they love when they want to do them. We want to make sure that our offerings are not hindered by, or people participating in our offerings are not hindered by their economic status. And we always want to support inclusivity. And of course, one of the benefits of all of this is that we are able to strengthen family through generational ties and otherwise. So the goals of our updated plans, again, we want to improve cost recovery, increase long-term sustainability of our operations, ensure accessibility to all, bolster the quality of life for the community residents. We want to support that physical, mental, and social health that comes from being active and social. And we also want to drive tourism and our local economy here in Casper and Ventura County. So when we talk about our 5-year business plans, I just want to be really clear about what me and my staff believe that these are, how they benefit us, and then maybe just as importantly, what they are not. So certainly they are strategic roadmaps. I want to point out the fact that the 3 enterprises that we're covering tonight are supervised by supervisors who have been in their role less than a year. So this is a pretty significant dive for anybody who has not ran an operation or managed their own business. This is a very challenging, beneficial certainly, but challenging way of sort of looking at the operation, really thinking very strategically about how to grow business, reducing our expenses over time, try to get ahead of community trends and what we think our citizens want. And so it's a really different way to look at operations. And they have done an outstanding job, and that'll be really evident in the work that you see tonight. But very new supervisors working on these. But so they are absolutely strategic roadmaps for us. They are 5-year plans. They are living documents that we will use to guide our rates, to guide our staffing, to guide our programming, and to inform our capital agenda and decision-making when it comes to capital priorities. They are used to forecast fund performance, which you'll see tonight, of course. They help us to establish our priorities over the 5-year period. And we hope that they help us ensure that our operations align with what the city council wants and what our community priorities are. What our business plans are not are one-time tasks that we then sit on a shelf and don't look at. I've told my staff, we need to work our plans and let our plans work for us. And so we are constantly revisiting those plans, making sure that we are following through on the things that we said that we were going to do. Certainly pivoting if we need to, because they are living documents, but it's not my intention that we do this massive body of work and then just set it on a shelf. So, and they are absolutely not a guarantee that all of the strategies that we talk about tonight will be implemented exactly as written or have the outcomes exactly as predicted, right? Because at its core, it's still a best estimate of how we think those strategies will impact our fund, and we can't predict everything. I mean, nobody in early 2020 would have predicted COVID, right? And that had massive impacts. And so we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and certainly among some of my newest supervisors, there's a little angst, right? Like, what if this doesn't work? And I really try to encourage my staff to be innovative, and we can take risks as long as there's not an imminent catastrophe. It's okay to try things even if they don't work, and then we just adjust if we need to. So the bottom line is that we want our plans to remain relevant, to be realistic and responsive to current conditions in markets, cost, participation trends, funding availability, and community expectations. So that's what we hope to achieve through these plans. So the process to update our plans was pretty much the same as it has been in past iterations, with a few exceptions. So as always, we utilized all the available resources to inform our 5-year plans. We, of course, had master plans that we built off of that were completed in 22 and 23. But we've since also done feasibility studies. We've done Parks and Rec master planning. We've done other master plans, and we went through the exercise of priority-based budgeting. So we were able to utilize information from all of those resources to help inform the 5-year plan updates. We then selected realistic opportunities for us, identified logical timelines for implementation of those strategies. We applied forecasts for each opportunity, and these forecasts really utilize past performance data and are rooted in data that was existing to help inform what we felt were conservative growth projections for our operations. And then we reviewed those draft plans with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board subcommittee. So a subcommittee of that board comprised of 5 of their members got together, heard staff present. We literally went line by line. And so they got a little bit more detailed information in terms of how we came up with the dollar figures that we came up with. In some cases, we would solicit their advice if we weren't sure about what percentage of increase we should, count on or try to project. And they were able to give us that feedback. They certainly provided some strategic direction, more so than like in the weeds of the day-to-day operation. But they were able to help us balance like the sentiment around cost recovery versus affordability for our users, and revenue generation versus community access, again, at that affordable level. They helped us to consider long-term sustainability for each enterprise and advise us on cost recovery targets where that was appropriate. And so we really valued their perspective on community impact and equity, user experience implications, risk tolerance and priorities, and then the investment return that we would see with each strategy potentially. And so their feedback was really invaluable. I think my staff appreciated hearing from them. I think they appreciated learning more about the experience and understanding how deep we really dive into trying to manage and plan our operations over the short and long term. And so it was a really good exercise. I'm glad that we engaged them, and it is my intention that we will always do that from here on out as we're developing updates for our plans. So I'm going to pause there and see if you have any questions about that.
Any questions for Zulima? Nope.
All right, let's dive into Hold On then. All right, so starting out, we'll talk about those priority-based budgeting considerations. So again, we went through the exercise of establishing the programs that the city of Casper has, and then we gave that data, uploaded that data into the priority-based budgeting platform, and our consultants had access to that data. And in many cases, the consultants provided information from their other customers in terms of what they were doing to either increase revenue or decrease costs related to some of similar programs that we had. And so when I'm going through the considerations, the description is the recommendation they made based on what another one of their clients is doing. And then the bullet points sort of summarize how we either intend to try to implement that or how we have in the past tried to implement that and what the result has been. So for this first one, the recommendation was to partner with local ski clubs and volunteer organizations to support ski race programming and to establish formal volunteer programs to reduce paid staff hours. So as you know, Hogadon already partners with local clubs, i.e. the Casper Mountain Racers, and volunteer organizations such as Special Olympics to support our race programming. We do not actually offer race programming as part of our operation, but staff is exploring the feasibility of expanding night race training opportunities to new clubs and user groups. And so Ryan and his team are in the process of evaluating our capacity, seeing what that would need to look like for us to expand night skiing into potentially Monday or Tuesday nights, in addition to the Wednesday, Thursday training that we do and the Friday, Saturday public night skiing that we have. Then the second one is that Casper Mountain Ski Patrol is a full volunteer ski patrol. Hogadon only utilizes 3 of our paid employees to supplement the volunteer ski patrol, and that's really only when patrol staffing is limited, particularly during night skiing. So our night skiing starts at 4 p.m. As you can imagine, most of our volunteer ski patrol work full-time jobs. And so getting up on the mountain by 4 p.m. to start patrolling on a volunteer basis is pretty challenging for some of our patrollers. And so oftentimes we have to supplement that with paid staff. But really we only have 3 employees that do that. The lion's share of our patrol is completely volunteer. And then while race programming is quite a popular and critical offering in Hogadon sustainability, we identify that recreational snow sports are a growth opportunity that we are going to explore for the future. So if you think like sports leagues that we have in other areas, there may be a potential to just create a recreational club, people who are interested in skiing in groups or even racing, but not quite as competitive as like the Casper Mountain Racers or high schools are. So we are looking at that as a future opportunity for us. Then in terms of Hogadon and consideration number 2, the recommendation was to secure grants through outdoor rec development funds and form partnerships with regional tourism boards to gain funding and support for skiing initiatives. They suggested that we offer branded merchandise camps and new fee-based services that appeal to families and tourists. And so staff, of course, has and will continue to prioritize seeking grants through the state of Wyoming and other grantors to obtain funding for infrastructure and expanded programming. Thankfully, we've been pretty successful in that, and we'll continue to seek those opportunities. Staff has also worked closely with Visit Casper to promote Hogadon as a destination for individuals and families, especially those looking for affordable alternatives to the large regional ski resorts, primarily those in the Front Range in Utah, that can be quite expensive. So the business plan includes closer collaboration with Visit Casper, as well as area hospitality providers, i.e. our hoteliers, to develop and promote visitor packages, so that if we bring people from outside of the community, they have a place to stay, they go ski, they maybe get some kind of tip or coupon to have a nice meal somewhere, and then it creates a package experience for people to take advantage of, which we think will be attractive. And then finally, the Friends of Hogadon actually purchase all of our branded merchandise that's sold at Hogadon, and proceeds from that branded merchandise are always reinvested into the area. And they've done that to purchase terrain park features. A lot of the furniture, the movable furniture that's in the lodge, which is purchased by the Friends of Hogadon through those proceeds, as well as slope cameras that allow mostly parents and grandparents to sit inside the lodge and watch their kids out on the slopes. So the Friends of Hogadon are a great nonprofit partner that we have up there, and they do quite a lot for us in terms of funding support. So,
If there's any check-ins about that first part.
So in terms of our revenue generating and cost reduction strategies for revenue up at Hogadon, the number one thing is to replace the chairlift to improve safety, accessibility, and capacity. And while we understand that the chairlift itself likely isn't going to generate a lot of revenue, what it really does for us is keep us from having to close and lose the opportunity to have snow sports up at Hogadon. There will be, we believe, modest increases in revenue. One, by expanding into summer operations potentially. 2, by attracting families who may be reluctant now because of the perceived safety concerns with the existing lift not having safety bars, only being able to seat 2 people. We do believe that those are hindrances, and we've heard that anecdotally. Even members of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board have shared that concern with us. And so we do believe that we'll see a moderate increase of families that may be more willing to try skiing with their young children than they are now with the new lift. Then, of course, With the lift, we hope comes tower-mounted lighting, excuse me, that will light Dreadnought, which is arguably one of our most popular runs at the area, as well as the terrain park. And that will certainly expand our night skiing capabilities, both for race training as well as for recreational night skiing. We certainly want to look at improving our marketing, including digital and targeted marketing outside of our area to attract those visitors to come to the ski area. We want to continue to examine advertising, sponsorship, and naming opportunities for the assets up on the mountain. Grow partnerships with local hospitality providers and regional ski areas. Again, that was an item in the priority-based budgeting recommendations. Expand trails and shelters to attract more summer outdoor recreation use and charge a summer trail or lift fee. So we believe that in order for us to sustain summer operations, we will have to charge a modest fee because we will have to have staff that operates the lift. A lot of our full-time staff are actively working to do maintenance to the ski area during the summer months. And so they don't have a lot of capacity to man the lift during the daytime hours. So we would have to hire non-full-time staff to do that. And so there would need to be a fee associated. And then we would want to improve lodge outdoor spaces and work with partners to bring more summer events. So currently, we feel like there's some opportunity to improve the aesthetics of the exterior to attract more events like weddings. We get a fair number of weddings up there because it is a beautiful space, but we believe that making the exterior more attractive in terms of landscaping and trees in the summer months could really expand that even more. And then we also are looking at some concepts that allow us to construct like a small stage, or things like that to accommodate additional concerts and other events. And then we would like to look at investing in camping and glamping amenities. So RV hookups, maybe some small shelters like they have recently built at Wilkins State Park. Fairly inexpensive to construct, but are quite popular among travelers these days in terms of sort of novel places to stay. So, and we believe that those could serve wedding parties and other parties really well, allowing people to have a great time and not have to drive down the mountain and create a hazard for themselves. So, and then in terms of cost reductions, we're really looking at eliminating the insurance costs that we use to cover ski patrol. So currently the Casper Mountain Ski Patrol, again, is 100% volunteer. But the way the statutes are written, they are not covered by workers' comp. And so we are actually advocating for a statute change to allow coverage for them through workers' comp, which would eliminate our need to purchase work comp insurance or accident insurance for them while they're working. And then finally, just personnel management. We actually did recently have an employee resign. He was 0.5 full-time equivalent because he was shared with parks. And we have operationally decided that we could shed that half a full-time position and just backfill during the winter months if we need that position with non-full-time support. So that's potentially a cost savings for us as well. So this is a lot of information on what that kind of looks like in a chart. And again,
Mayor,
Yeah.
can we go back?
Yeah.
One slide. So in cost reductions, eliminating ski patrol insurance. So that would only happen after a statute change.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah, we don't want to eliminate that coverage until we know they're covered through another means.
so are they basically currently through warm, or what? How are they covered currently?
Mayor, Counselor, that's a great question. So actually WARM 100% excludes ski operations. So we have to purchase separate insurance for the ski area through Hub, which we actually insure through Mountain Guard. However, we have to buy an additional policy to cover any injury. So the general coverage that you have is liability coverage, so that if, you know, our employees are acting in the scope of their duty and there's some kind of accident or call for a liability claim, that insurance would kick in and cover that. But it does not cover that patroller being injured while they're working. So we have to purchase a separate policy for that. And that's what we're trying to shed. Is to ensure if workers' comp covers them for any injury while they're acting in the scope of their duty as volunteer patrollers, then we would eliminate that cost. It's about $9,000 a year.
And on the overall insurance policy, I mean, does that have an umbrella on it? Because that can, you know, if you have a catastrophe, that could get pretty pricey, you know, in multiple millions. So is there a base policy plus umbrellas?
Mayor, Counselor, I can't remember the specific details of the insurance policy, or happy to get that information and share it with you, but it does follow best practices for ski area industry coverage. Mountain Guard is a leader in ski industry coverage.
Okay.
So we feel confident that we are adequately covered, and the premium that we pay to Mountain Guard is based on our sales.
No, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
While we're still on this part, Zalima, I was happy to see you mention the expansion of the, you know, the outdoor, the year-round use of the area and stuff. So I just feel like that has a lot of potential for all the, you know, kind of piggybacking all the other uses you mentioned about, you know, partnering with hospitality, creating those packages, and the you know, making that more of a year-round usability. So kudos, and I hope I'm wishing good luck to you and your staff as you kind of flush that out. And that's an exciting prospect, I think.
Mayor, Counselor, we agree. And it, you know, expansion into summertime activities has been in the feasibility study since the master plan was completed in 2013. And we do have about 3-mile loop of trail
Yeah.
that has been constructed up there. It is a single track, relatively rough trail, but it's a start and it is used. So we definitely agree that that is an opportunity area, and it allows us to sort of hedge our bets if we have a rough winter like we did this winter. That being said, though, and you'll see it in our plan, you know, we don't want to create an unrealistic expectation that,
Sure.
you know, next summer we're going to be full
Oh,
on summer
absolutely.
operations,
Sure.
right?
Because some of that's contingent on the new lift.
Most of it is
Yeah.
contingent on a new lift.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, you know, it's going to take us probably a good year, maybe even a
Yeah.
little longer, to figure out the appropriate staffing
Sure.
levels and just really what all we can offer in a responsible and affordable way.
Yeah.
As we sort of transition into that summer operation.
Yeah, thank you.
So we don't want to create an unrealistic expectation with our citizens that
Sure.
even, you know, the summer after the lift is built, we're going to be open,
Right.
you know, 5 days a week for summertime operations. That's just probably not realistic, but we're certainly working.
And happy to see it on your radar.
Along the same line, and I think you answered a lot of what I was wanting to understand better, but I think there was maybe some pilot concerts, or, you know, what the series that happened in the summer last time. So it seems like a few of these items are relatively lower hanging fruit that we can be working on now. So can we expect to see any of those activities this summer, or is there a timeline for some of the easier to implement or earlier to implement things coming forth at Hogadon?
Mayor, Counselor, absolutely. I do know that OVG is planning to continue their concert series into this year, so you should expect to see live music up there a couple of times. In addition to that, they've been expanding their events other than just weddings or other parties that create rentals. They're doing their own events, including the wine tastings up there have been very, very popular. And so OVG has been a great partner in that they're really trying to identify ways to attract people up to the mountain, you know, for reasons other than skiing and snowboarding. I would expect we can continue to see that ramp up this summer as well as into next summer. Next summer may depend on what kind of construction could be going on up there. We hope it's construction, so that could impede a little bit on some of the activities that we can do, but certainly this summer you'll see some activity. So again, I feel like the Parks and Rec Advisory Group really vetted these numbers with us pretty thoroughly. So I'm happy to provide information, but I think that really, in the end, this is probably what you're most interested in seeing, and that is sort of our projection over time. So of course, you'll see figures since fiscal year 21. We are in fiscal year 26 in terms of what we're projecting or how we project to finish out the fiscal year. And then the plan begins from 27 on. So, you know, no surprise that we had a pretty significant dip in our cost recovery this year due to reduced revenues from a pretty bad snow year. We have alternatively had some really great snow years like we did in 23 that produced much better than our projection or our cost recovery goal. So questions about Hogadon?
Can you
Go ahead.
go back? I didn't get a chance to. Thank you.
Mayor, I would say that while you're sort of looking at this, I will introduce Ryan Butler again. He is our ski area superintendent. Been in this role for just about a year now. And so certainly if you have detailed questions about the operation, happy to bring Ryan up and help me answer those.
So are we suggesting modifying any of the cost recovery goals at this meeting, or are we hopefully leaving things alone at Hogadon?
Mayor, Counselor, great question. I'm sorry, I glossed over that. Their current cost recovery goal is 60% for Hogadon, and we're not proposing a change at this time. I mean, as you can see, our projection would put us closer to 70% on average. But again, so much of that hinges on whether or not we get the new lift. So we don't want to suggest a change that needs to be passed by resolution in case that doesn't come to fruition in the timeline that we're hoping.
So do we, on a going forward basis, look at this every single year? Or?
Mayor, so it's been about 3 years since the last time council reviewed our business plans. So certainly we would do what council would like to see. If you want us to come back annually, we can certainly do that. Otherwise, we can come back when we intend to make significant updates to the plan.
So,
We generally cover performance during the budget each year without quite so much detail about specific strategies.
so I think it was last year, I haven't been here that long, but where I believe we changed a lot of the cost recovery and up the did a user fee and a lot of modification.
Mayor,
At least
Counselor.
my first year.
So we do come to council about every other year per fund. So you'll see us likely every year to talk about rates for all of the enterprises because we do seek your approval to increase membership, daily fees, those kinds of rates at our facilities. Again, those discussions are generally focused specifically on rates, and we may give you some performance data that helps you understand why we're coming up with the proposed rates that we're coming up with, but it's not necessarily a deep dive into our business plans.
Have you ever come with ask for a reduction?
Mayor, Counselor, in the rates, not that I can remember in my tenure.
Inflation doesn't go backwards.
Snow sure has.
Mayor, Counselor, if I may. So that's actually an excellent point, and I haven't had a chance to review the proposal in detail yet. But it is our recommendation that we do offer a discount to pass holders who purchased a pass in this last season. And so proposal, I think, is 15% discount if they purchase their pass by a certain date. So we are looking to offer that as sort of a thank you for your continued support. We can't control the weather, but we'd like to see you back. So
Because a lot of season pass holders felt pretty screwed. I mean, not necessarily by Hoganon and staff, but lack of snow, they understood and they tried to produce as much snow as possible, but there's limitations there too. So
and I would remind everybody that we were open, and while it wasn't ideal and not every run was open, we were open. So we were staffing, the lift was spinning. And so, and that has costs associated with it. So, you know, they don't necessarily pay for snow, they pay for the lift. And so that's sort of the same concept that we're transitioning when it comes to summertime operations, right? If they're gonna ride the lift to mountain bike or hike, that's really what the pass pays for.
Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Zulima, for all this information so far, specifically in regards to this model. You know, it looks like FY26 is a one-off in kind of the projections, and for the next 5 years, kind of a return to baseline. I'm going to continue to be the negative Nancy on this. I just, you know, this is something I continually try to keep myself educated and aware of. I'm always reading climate assessments and trying to keep myself abreast of research. I just don't see, you know, this last winter is maybe a one-off in the sense that it's a little bit more drier than usual, and hopefully these next few winters are better, but I just don't, despite my best efforts, I can't find any reasons to believe that that's not going to become a more frequent occurrence and that our snowpack is going to continually decline. And so I'm wondering if these projections, even in the next 5 years, are optimistic.
Mayor, Counselor, you are correct. We went back to FY25 data to inform projections moving forward, hoping that 26 is an anomaly year. We understand that hope is not a plan. And so we have also reached out to UCAR and NCAR trying to get data specific to our region in terms of climate projections into the future, what we can anticipate with snowpack. And then we would use that information to help us inform the plan a little bit better. Unfortunately, we have connected. We have made a couple of we have had a couple of phone calls to discuss this, and they are interested in working with us and providing some data. We just weren't able to obtain it before this exercise was completed. So that will be something, if the data comes back dramatic, then we may look at revising this plan sooner. And again, Hogadon is an area that we may have to look at sooner anyways, depending on what happens with the list.
Thank you.
That being said, we are optimistic, and in case you didn't see on our Facebook page, on Friends of Hogadon Facebook page, on the Jonah Bank Facebook page, we were surprised with a $20,000 contribution from Jonah Bank for the lift project. So again, to me, just signals that local business and the community supports this project generally. And I'm hoping that will help us to continue to gain momentum towards the purchase of the new bridge.
Vice Mayor. Jesus.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Sorry about that.
Vice Mayor's paying attention.
So, do you need approval from us as far as the discount? Because I think that's a great idea, and I think we should move forward with that. But
Mayor, Counselor, so generally speaking, no, for a one-off situation like a discount. The resolution is written to allow the director to make special accommodations or provide special pricing under unique circumstances. And so I would say that's probably one of those circumstances where I would have the authority to implement. But I do appreciate knowing that you support that. Move on. And the next one we are going to go over is the Casper Recreation Center. So again, starting with priority-based budgeting, the recommendation was to centralize facility preparation and equipment maintenance into a shared service unit instead of having dedicated staff per program. And this is very similar. You saw the same concept with the aquatic center and the ice arena. In that we are looking at a different structure for custodial maintenance services. 4 full-time custodial maintenance employees are going to be shared among the 3 operations, and the cost of those full-time employees will also be shared among those operations, hopefully providing adequate coverage in terms of custodial service at the most efficient and affordable cost. So that is a change that is coming and in fact has been implemented this year. Those employees were actually hired in January. Consideration number 2, excuse me, is to partner with low-income senior housing communities to deliver senior programs on site, thereby reducing overhead costs such as transportation and facility maintenance. This leverages existing community spaces and volunteer networks, achieving increased participation without a proportional increase in staff and facility costs. So we liked this recommendation in that it really aligned with the Casper Area Parks and Rec Master Plan, which showed that our senior population is underserved in Casper, despite the best efforts of the Casper Senior Center. We were hearing through feedback for the master plan that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for seniors in the community to access recreation. And so staff does plan on contacting area senior living and care facilities to gauge interest and identify opportunities to develop and implement senior programs that will complement what the Casper Senior Center is doing. And I do sit on the board of the Casper Senior Center, so I'm pretty aware of what they are doing in terms of programming, and they have done a lot of really amazing things that are great for their members and people who frequent that establishment. But in terms of seniors outside of that space, we want to be able to offer them affordable recreation as well. And so this is a path to try to do that. The third recommendation would be to implement a tiered fee structure for senior classes and outings based on income to maintain accessibility. Seek grants focused on health promotion for seniors and corporate sponsorships for social club events for seniors. Develop a partnership with Medicare Advantage programs to expand access to fitness classes for seniors. These programs enable billing Medicare for eligible participation in fitness activities, increasing revenue while maintaining services for all seniors. So as you know, scholarships are offered through the Community Recreation Foundation to all qualifying participants, including seniors, based on their income. Scholarships pay for 75% of the class or membership for the recipients of those scholarships. So we already have a mechanism in place by which they can access more affordable recreation if they need it. The 5-year plan also includes, however, adding new events and programming for seniors, proposed events, a big pitch such as a senior prom, and grandparents focused classes and events at the Casper Rec Center and Aquatic Center. So these would be classes where we invite seniors to bring their grandkids and participate in our activities. And then finally, the city did explore Medicare Advantage program, i.e. Silver Sneakers is actually the program that we evaluated in the past, and we did encounter some challenges with contracting due to terms that were unfavorable for the city in their standard contract. But we do feel like it's been several years since we examined that program, and we'd like to circle back, and reevaluate that as a potential for us.
Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
what does that mean that we'd contact Medicare?
So Silver Sneakers and similar Medicare Advantage programs allow seniors to access like fitness classes, and there's eligible programming that they can participate in, and then Medicare pays for a portion or all of that programming on their behalf. This is intended to keep seniors active and healthy.
Okay. Hopefully people aren't signing up for the Advantage programs, so they do not.
They've gotten much better.
So
They've improved the last couple of years.
Yeah, and Medicare Advantage program is what the priority-based budgeting term was. We likened that to Silver Sneakers, which we evaluated. There was actually one other program that we evaluated. And again, they were kind of new, and we had staff that was frustrated by the process by which to negotiate the contract terms and get it done. And so I think that there's an opportunity to reevaluate that and actually get something done that would allow us to try the program.
Lima was Hinge Health one of those?
No, I don't remember the name of the program, but it wasn't that.
Was
I
it
would
Hinge?
remember it if I heard it. I apologize.
I get things from Hinge Health all the time.
Any questions about that?
Anything else?
Activity, that's right. Of course, you would remember that well.
He's out of his reviewing now.
Bethelima.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, consideration number 4 is to implement new fees for facility usage and program participation, including personal training, identify government and nonprofit grant opportunities that target health and wellness initiatives. And the 5-year plan does include regular evaluation and moderate adjustment of our fees for facility rentals and programming. And then staff, again, has been successful in securing grants to assist in capital purchases and bolster programming. One that we're working on right now, of course, is related to third spaces. So we'll continue to explore grants to and really to this particular recommendation, grants that expand health-focused fitness programming for the rec center. We'll try to take a look and see if we can find anything that's a good fit. So in addition to those, we have a few other ideas for generating revenue and reducing our costs. To secure sponsorships. Sponsorships are going to be a big focus across the board. And I know that you've heard me say that before, but we're starting to gain some traction with that. And we think that there's still some growth opportunity there. We want to promote programs and events through improved marketing, evaluate and increase our admissions, membership, and camp fees, as well as facility rental fees as appropriate, of course, balancing that affordability with sustainability. Maximize our gym usage schedule. So we're finding that oftentimes during the day when we have open gym time, our gym is not being utilized. It's fairly vacant, but there are user groups out there that are looking for indoor space. And so, we want to be able to offer public time for people to drop in and do activities. But if we can evaluate that schedule and maximize the use of the gyms in a way that makes sense, we would like to try to do that. Evaluate and expand classes, paid events, and adventure camp. So Mariah is going through the exercise of evaluating our classes now, identifying which ones are revenue drivers and which ones are loss leaders, and probably going to make some hard decisions about some classes that may need to get cut, but also balancing that with new classes that could attract new interest to the rec center. Evaluate and expand concession and merchandise opportunities. So we have a pro shop, things that we sell at the recreation center now. Some of those things don't do very well. And so really just reevaluating what is it that people want or need when they're at the recreation center. Whether that's some kind of like Gatorade drink or energy drink or other things that may enhance the experience while they're there. We're looking at those opportunities. Develop outdoor recreation programming. We do feel like introducing kids and adults into the outdoor rec space to get them more comfortable with activities that we have to offer in our community and region are really important. Sometimes those activities can be intimidating to people who have never rock climbed or mountain biked or things like that. And so we feel like we can offer some introductions to those activities and help people get comfortable in that space so that they can go enjoy the amenities that we have in our community. Teen third space and programming is something that we're actively working on now, and we do feel like will pay dividends into the future. And then constructing an auxiliary gym, although that was a proposition for the specific purpose sales and use tax that did not pass. We do feel like that is important for us to be able to grow programming and access to programming through the recreation center. So it is a project that we would like to continue to pursue. And you'll see in the plan that without it, we're really kind of stuck with in terms of how much revenue we can generate with the space that we have. In terms of cost reduction, Mariah has already evaluated that camp staffing can be tweaked ever so slightly to save us a little bit of money, but still provide the coverage that we need with our kids in camp. And then also looking at, and this would probably not apply only to the recreation center, but really looking at ways that we can convert facility lighting to LED to save on some energy consumption costs. And I've actually spoken to the city manager, and through buildings and structures, we're looking at doing an evaluation to see, enterprise-wide, what we could gain there through energy efficiency.
Jenna, did you have something?
I did have, well, not so much a question, but kind of going, oh, I forgot what you called it, outdoor rec on the other pro. Develop outdoor recreation, different programming and stuff when you were talking about that. A couple ideas just floated through my brain and I'm not sure if you've thought about them, but especially with seniors and things like that, non-athletic people, locals, tourists, other people. If this chairlift does come to fruition, that would be a good program, I think, for seniors and for a lot of people too, and even your youth for your day camps, summer camps that you have going on, is to utilize Hogadon in that aspect and just charge, like a tram ride, but it would get them out to be able to see the mountain and what the mountain has to offer. And you can even do the hiking up there and just utilize those grounds at Hogadon. I'm not sure if you've thought of anything like that. Yeah, I was just writing down nature hikes and hiking and things like that for the kids up, they always go to the museums, which is awesome, support that, but also they need to get outside just the same way that we have Hogadon for like the ski programs and the ski school through the Natrona County School District, just to expose them to it, because it's something that is so accessible, but yet a lot of them just don't go up there. So throwing that out there.
Mayor, Counselor, thank you for those suggestions, and we are in the process of exploring some of those opportunities. So for instance, we have developed quite a great relationship with the supervisor over at Park, and so we're partnering on some programming with her. And then in addition to that, I did attend the Outdoor Recreation Summit just a couple of months ago, and one of the sessions that I attended was specific to outdoor learning, just becoming really, really popular. And in fact, Casper already has an outdoor learning program where the classroom is outside 100% of the time. And so really kind of looking at opportunities there to provide outdoor education, and certainly Hogadon is top of my list in terms of opportunity to provide space where there can be some great learning that happens. Transportation up there tends to be sort of challenging, and so we would have to work through that. But I think there are a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, and then just get the public to use our facilities more too. The city.
Go ahead, Amber.
I don't want to get ahead of you, so this could be coming later in the presentation, but is there any sort of like look back or evaluation of the success of the progress of the past iterations of these business plans?
Mayor, Counselor, so we didn't go so far as to compare the actual business plans with the performance, but we do have a performance model that shows you from 2021 through 2031, which is when our plan ends.
Okay. Cool. So I think like a number of these revenue generating ideas are probably sort of like perennials, like we've seen them before, they're likely we would see them again. So I'm interested, like sponsorships, merch and concessions, optimizing the schedule, those sorts of things. I'm wondering if you can provide just your kind of like evaluation of progress we've made since we started implementing some of the things we've implemented over the last several years, and sort of where you see things that have yet to be implemented that we like to implement, or how we can even enhance further the progress that's been made since the last business plan.
Mayor, Counselor, I think it would take us a little bit of time to pull that together. I do know that some of the supervisors have actually gone through that activity of just really saying, okay, these were the items that we identified in the last plan, and this is the result of that. But not all of them.
Okay.
And so I'm absolutely happy to provide that a little bit deeper dive.
Cool, thanks.
What else?
So this is the business plan in its chart or chart form, and then this is the projection. So for the rec center in particular, our current cost recovery goal is 50%, and you can see historically we have struggled to get anywhere close to that 50% mark. I will explain 23 because that's clearly an anomaly, right? And so, and you may remember that I tried to warn council during budget time for fiscal year 23 that this would likely happen. But what happened there is that historically, all of the custodial maintenance and some facility maintenance staff lived in the recreation center fund. Shortly after I became the Parks and Rec director, I believed we could gain some efficiencies by centralizing custodial maintenance out of our buildings and structures division. And so we removed all of those personnel out of the rec center fund, transfer them over to buildings and structures. And then the model that we were using for allocation of expenses for buildings and structures went on a 3-year average of the 3 previous years. And so that was artificially reduced in terms of what the rec center fund should have been paying for services. And obviously we had a significant reduction in cost because we took hundreds of thousands of dollars in personnel costs out of that fund. And so that's why you're seeing the very significant spike there. It's the result of significantly decreased expenses from those personnels. And then the next year when we moved buildings and structures to a fee for service model where we were invoicing based on work orders every month, then that sort of corrected itself and moved on. Since then, we discovered that it was that centralized custodial was challenging when we were spread out so much throughout the community. And so again, we've transitioned back to the 3 enterprise complex, ice, aquatic center, and rec center, sharing those 4 employees. And so, but the cost of those employees are not only in the rec center fund, they're spread across all 3 of those funds, as opposed to historically, they lived in the rec center 100%.
I know they've only been on since January, but preliminarily, do you feel like that was the right direction? Intuitively, I would tend to agree with what you said in the recommendation on number 1, which was to centralize some of those things. Like, to me, that seems like it would make good sense, but it sounds like that was not the experience. So I think reverting back to what we were doing, have you seen that trend us in the right direction?
Mayor, councilor, so it is a little confusing, but what we did was centralize, but it was sort of to an extreme. And now we're decentralizing slightly. I mean, the rest of the custodial maintenance services are out of buildings and structures, but in particular, this 3 building complex could benefit from their own supervised custodial staff. Edwin Lures, our assistant rec manager, is actually supervising those employees. So I would invite him up if he wants to share his experience. But I can tell you anecdotally, we've gotten a lot of feedback that the service that's being provided is better. The cleanliness of the facilities is being noted by our visitors. And so that, of course, is a plus because during that time, and one of the reasons I felt like it was not working to have that centralized service out of buildings and structures was because we started getting a lot of complaints about the cleanliness of the facilities. And that doesn't do well for our membership or our visitors and our sort of perception in the community. And so, but Edwin, would you add anything?
I honestly couldn't say it better than myself. Mayor, councilor, I can see that we've seen a lot less complaints. There are still complaints and we're still working towards those, but a lot less, for sure, in cleanliness.
And in terms of costs, we are seeing a significant reduction because through buildings and structures, the work order system is not based on an hourly salary. It's based on a rate that we pay for service. And so it was a rate that included overhead costs that we won't have with those employees being. So it is a more cost-effective solution for the rec enterprises that are served by that.
You're good.
Questions? Okay. So the third enterprise that we're going to cover in detail tonight is Fort Casper Museum. So the first priority-based budgeting recommendation that we discussed was to merge certain museum exhibition functions with local universities' museum studies programs, creating internship and joint research partnerships. So Fort Casper has been in discussion with Casper College regarding any collaborative opportunities through their museum and gallery studies program. They do have a degree program at Casper College specific to this, and we have utilized their staff in the past as interns, but it's been several years. And so Steve Gaynor, our new museum supervisor, is re-engaging Casper College as not just in the museum and gallery studies program, but also in the history program to see if we can identify some opportunities for internships at the museum that would benefit the student and the operation, of course. And then the second thing that I would note is, Joe Nardoni's research archives on the Pony Express have been provided to Fort Casper. We are still not in a position where we feel like we're going to get the remainder of the collection, but his intellectual property had been donated to another agency who didn't have room for it and were unsuccessful at raising the funds to expand their facility to house it. And so that was donated to the city. We have it in our possession. And once it's appropriately cataloged, we really feel like we can explore how to incorporate his research work into the Fort Casper Museum experience. So there's a lot of information in there. He was the lead research expert in the Pony Express. And so there is some notoriety there that we believe we can gain. And if we are able to utilize his research in a way that attracts people to either come research his research or partner some other way in enhancing Pony Express, exhibitions and discussions at the museum, we certainly want to do that. It is remains a popular topic of interest for people. The second recommendation is to introduce a tiered fee system for traveling exhibits, including rental fees that we would assess libraries or museums that were utilizing our traveling exhibits, plus premium add-on workshops or lecture series that we could conduct ourselves with our staff while those facilities are exhibiting our traveling exhibitions. And so the other part of that recommendation was to pursue state or National Endowment of the Arts grants to co-fund traveling exhibitions. We just wanted to note that the Fort Casper Museum Association, or FCMA, has financially supported the creation of several of our traveling exhibitions, and we do that to feature Fort Casper offerings, travel those around the state and region in a way to market Fort Casper to attendees that go to other museums throughout the state. And so we'll continue to seek funding from FCMA as well as other areas to co-fund these traveling exhibitions because we do see value in having our name out there in the museum community at large. Museum staff will also explore pairing our traveling exhibitions with premium add-on workshops or lecture series. So in conjunction with the traveling exhibit that we create, we could prepare some lectures or workshops that then we could offer to those facilities that are going to host our exhibitions. And that could be something that we certainly feel like we could charge a fee for that they may be willing to pay. But I will note that I believe that our ability to do this really hinges largely on resurrecting the museum educator position. Museum educator is a position that existed at Fort Casper for a number of years. It was co-funded by the Ventura County School District. And when the district pulled their funding, we eliminated the position. And so we would like to revisit that as an opportunity area for the museum to attract students and continue sort of that sustainability piece, right? We want to encourage young people to gain a love of the museum so that they continue to come into adulthood. And so really finding ways to engage a little bit more with our youth, I think, is a big part of, I know, Steve's plan moving forward. Consideration number 3 or recommendation number 3 was to develop a sponsored exhibit program where local businesses and educational institutions can fund or sponsor traveling exhibits in exchange for branding and partnership recognition. They also suggested that we explore grants targeting education to supplement funding. So our business plan does in fact include a focus on expanding sponsorship revenue for the museum. Not only for our traveling exhibits, but also for the galleries, our meeting space, our temporary exhibits, and then other events that Steve is interested in bringing to the museum. And then staff will continue to seek grants to supplement funding for exhibits and events, including those that could be attractive to sponsors. So if we could get a grant that helps us to build an exhibit that then a local business is really interested in sponsoring, that's a win for everyone. So we certainly will look at that. And consideration number 4 is to implement a modest admission fee on special exhibits and create a dedicated fundraising campaign targeting local history enthusiasts to support collection preservation. Expanding grant applications to federal culture preservation funds was another recommendation of the priority-based budgeting consultants. And so again, the business plan does include charging a moderate admission fee for special exhibits. So you would get into the museum at a set fee, and for this special exhibit, pay an additional dollar, whatever the case may be. That's very common in the museum world. It's something that we have not historically done, but certainly could. And so we will evaluate that. In addition, staff has been successful again in securing grants to assist in both capital purchasing and in expanded programming. And so we will explore grants specifically aimed at expanding and preserving our existing collection and any collection that we are able to gain from this point on. And so I know that Steve has a lot of ideas on how we could expand space, primarily to free up our classroom so that we can expand education. And in fact, the IMLS grant that you all approved us to write was a $25,000 grant really focused on education, included identifying alternative storage for the collection that's currently in that classroom so that we could use the classroom for education. And so that's just one example of how we've already looked at preservation or collection preservation in a way that allows us to offer more from the museum than we're able to get now. So. And then speaking of grants, I did want to mention on June 2nd, of course, I came before the council and asked for permission to submit a grant to the National Endowment of the Humanities for a documentary film that we would like to produce about Fort Casper and particularly the Battle of Platte River Bridge. And so I just want to be 100% transparent. That grant is due this week and we do intend to submit the grant. But as we were developing the grant application and the budget, it became apparent that because of Steve's role as the museum supervisor and then his likely role involved in the film, there are some conflict of interest things that we will have to work through. And so I just want to put that out there. We are going to submit the grant application. We'll do a deep dive with financial services, with our legal department, to make sure that everything's on the up and up before we accept any kind of award for that grant. We want to make sure that Steve's adequately compensated for the work that he will be doing on the film, if that's going to be the case. But we also don't want to get sideways with our grantor on the fact that he will eventually wear 2 hats. In particular with this project, because he is, of course, very well suited to help us accomplish this film. So, any heartburn about that? All right, so here are our revenue generating and cost reduction strategies. And I have to say, Steve gave me such a long list. It was an effort for me to condense it into 5 bullet points, but we are going to evaluate and adjust our memberships and admission fees for special exhibits and for out-of-county visitors. He's identified an opportunity whereby we should likely be charging more for our out-of-county visitors than we do right now. Everybody pays the same admission, whether you live here or not. Again, really common in the museum world to charge more if you're not from that location. So we're looking at that. Expand school and public programs, workshops, and signature events to drive admissions. Increase donor engagement and sponsorships through exclusive benefits and events. Increase facility rental opportunities and rates. I think that Steve sees a lot of opportunity to increase the utilization of our multipurpose room, of the grounds themselves for events that people would bring to the museum. And then explore and implement tourism and destination initiatives, including a ride-on train, which I think is his passion project right now, as well as expanded partnerships with Isaac Walton Campground and commercial film and photography opportunities. He has actually already identified that people are very interested in having their photographs taken with the carriages that we store in our carriage house that have really not seen the light of day in quite a long time. And so we've already had groups that want to come out and they are willing to utilize those as props in their photographs. So we're happy to accommodate that. In terms of cost reduction, we want to pursue partner-based resource sharing opportunities. Again, if there's an opportunity for us to engage with other museums to share maybe an educator or other resources that would help both entities save money, we're all about that. We want to increase our volunteer engagement. We want to continue evaluating energy efficient operational practices, facility use patterns. So again, getting back to some of the LED lighting opportunities and other things to save energy. And of course, continue to expand our grant supported programs. And I think the museum is a real opportunity because there's generally a lot of cultural funding available for museums. We're willing to put in the work to go for those grants. So you'll see a lot of activity on this business plan, and we tried to be realistic about what he will be able to accomplish year over year in the limited amount of time that there's daylight each day. But this is what that forecast looks like for Fort Casper. The current cost recovery goal for Fort Casper is 20%. And at this point, we are not proposing a change. Again, we want to be realistic. Steve's only been with us 6 months, and we don't want to put undue pressure on him. So I'd like to see how some of these things materialize for us before we commit to an increased cost recovery goal for this particular enterprise. You can see historically we've floated just under that 20%. We've averaged about 18%. But with some of the ideas that he has and many which he has already started down the road of implementing, we certainly see an opportunity to increase that to up to 40%.
Questions? Yeah, quick comment.
So on building expansion, have you and Steve met with Michael Schickish?
Mayor, Councilor, I can tell you I have not met with Mr. Schickish. I do believe that Steve has met with him a number of times. And you know, we fully how this goes. There's a lot of data, a lot of time to prepare, and I've got, you know, some key points that I hope will be obvious. But first, let's talk about the municipal cost index. And for those of you who may not know, the municipal cost index is actually a composite index that measures inflation in municipal service delivery costs. So, you know, municipalities are a little bit different in that we have some very specific cost drivers for us. We have labor, which is our largest share in most of our funds. Personnel is the highest expense line item. We have construction and infrastructure needs. We have materials and fuel needs, and certainly that is the case in Parks and Recreation. And then contracted services that are influenced by private sector input costs. And so because of those key drivers that are sort of somewhat unique to municipalities, the municipal cost index is made up of a composite of the consumer price index, the producer price index, and the construction cost index. It matters because I believe that it's the best capture of true budget pressures that are on cities or local governments. And it is often higher than the consumer price index, although you'll see it actually trends pretty close over the last 6 years. But and it does reflect that sort of unique municipal spending mix that it does tend to be a little bit different from household consumption and inflation related to those traditional uses. So the drivers of the increase in municipal cost index growth since 2020. Of course, post-pandemic inflation, we saw that surge in 21 and 22. There were rapid increases in labor, materials, and supply chain costs. Astronomical. You can see 12 to 18% on average during that spike. Then construction cost escalation, materials and infrastructure cost increased approximately 25% since 2020 to 2026. And I believe that you've all heard Tom Brower say that is even enhanced in a place like Casper, Wyoming, where we're sort of this island, and getting materials for construction and labor for construction here can be challenging. So he references a 20 to 25% increase, even higher than what we typically see nationally. That was not incorporated into this, by the way, but construction costs definitely went up, and I know that I've heard Krista refer to the prices of pipe and other materials for construction that just increased pretty astronomically. And then, of course, those broad inflation pressures with that consumer price index alone increasing 25 to 30% over that same period. We've just seen unprecedented inflation, and we all know that. And then producer input costs, so continued elevated costs for goods and services across the board, gaining at about a 6% increase. That stat provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So overall growth from 2020 to the 2025-2026 fiscal year is about 20 to 30% in total increase. So for the purposes of all of the charts that you will see today, I am using a central planning estimate of 25% cumulative cost growth from 2020 to 2026. Questions about that?
No questions.
Okay, so I will say to my staff, this is in alphabetical order because that was the fairest way I could do it without anybody thinking I was favoring. However, I will preface that with golf is at the end, primarily because their chart looks dramatically different. They are the only fund that does not have a subsidy. So everything else is just in alphabetical order, and that's the order that we're going to go in. So this is the aquatics fund performance since actuals from FY 2020. Through our estimated based on the projection in our business plan. Now, I will say that the amounts from 2020 through 2026 are using that 25% increase that the MCI suggests. From 2027 budget and beyond to 2031, it's a 3% inflation. That is what I used in the business plan, so I just wanted to remain consistent in how we're reflecting it in both plans. So for the aquatics fund, you can see, so the green bar indicates our revenue for the fund. The blue bar indicates our total expenses for the fund. The brown line shows if we started with the exact same expense in 2020 and applied that inflation rate that I just talked about, that is the line that we feel reflects inflation spending. And then the orange line shows what our total subsidy has been over that period of time. And I did apply a trend mark to that subsidy to just try to help, you know, a straight line versus the inflation impact line will hopefully help us gauge. And in the case of aquatics, I think you can see our spending remains at or below inflation year over year. Our revenue is also increasing, and this is consistent among all the funds. We are gaining in revenue each year, generally speaking. Of course, with the aquatics fund, you know, we were shut down for construction several of those years. Those are those low revenue years that you see in and around FY23 through FY25. And then you see the total subsidy line. And I think that it's important to note, you know, that as you trend it, you know, the widening of the total subsidy versus our inflation impact, I think is a positive place to be. You know, we recognize, and I displayed the chart up above so that you could see the actual dollar figures and then the cost recovery projection in terms of a percentage. But while our cost recovery performance has been pretty good, it's obvious that our expenses increase year over year because our revenue gains as well. Our cost recovery stays consistent, relatively speaking. But certainly we are spending more in the subsidy each year. But this is intended to kind of show you how that subsidy investment compares to inflation.
Questions? Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Ulima. I take it this modeling is based on the expectation that the 1 cent passes and that we continue infusing aquatics with, I think it's 325,000 a year. Is that baked into this modeling?
Mayor, Councilor, yes. Well, so the subsidy, our expenses and revenues here do not include contributions from direct distribution or 1 cent. This is revenue specifically generated from the fees. And then the total subsidy is what is made up by the 5th cent and direct distribution. And of course, the 5th cent only contributes to the aquatics fund. I hope that answers your question.
I'm sure you answered it. I'm just trying to.
The
Me too.
subsidy is unchanged regardless of if the 5th cent passes or not.
Just the source of
Yeah, the deficit will still
Funding,
be,
yeah.
yeah.
investment would change. Without that 5th cent infusion, we would either have to take that from the general fund, direct distribution, or cut back to the point where
Okay.
we've reduced costs by the $325,000 investment.
Anybody else?
All right, so this is the Fort Casper Fund performance. Again, glad to say that our expenses have tracked fairly close to that inflation and or below in some of the earlier years. And then as we see, you know, if we can realize some of the strategies that Steve is proposing for us, you know, that again, total subsidy line, we hope to start widening the distance between the subsidy and the inflation rate, indicating that, to me, that indicates good performance. And you can see the green bar is growing quite well too, which we like to see in terms of revenue generation.
Questions about Fort Casper? Yep, go ahead, Kyle.
So I'm curious what we do on insurance, basically on that facility through WARM.
Mayor, Councilor, insurance on all facilities are through WARM, including Hogadon. So I will say WARM covers the Hogadon property. They just don't cover the Hogadon operation. So our liability coverage is not through WARM. All property coverage is through WARM. And in all other operations, WARM covers the operation as well. Just not ski areas are excluded.
Okay.
So this includes the cost of property and liability coverage for Fort Casper Museum. All of the enterprises do. It's inclusive of all costs.
So, and Mayor, if I could,
You
so
bet.
I'm curious on reenactments and things like that. I'm assuming most of those are volunteers coming in and doing that. So would they be covered under the general liability? Or in case something, a runaway horse or, you know, whatever?
Mayor, Councilor, yes. Our volunteers are covered under our policy through WARM. As long as they are acting in the scope of their volunteer duties. And in some cases, we may contract with services, in which case we transfer that risk to the company. But if it were the case where they were volunteers, they would be covered.
Go ahead.
Are the employees then covered automatically by workman's comp?
Mayor, Councilor, yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, our employees are all covered by workers' comp. Our volunteers are not.
Okay.
But their liability is covered.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Okay, I think you're good.
Okay, so this is the Hogadon Fund performance from fiscal year 2020 through fiscal year 2031. Again, assuming that next year and beyond, we have average snow years, which certainly 25 was, and that's what we based our projections on. 23 was a stellar snow year. We did not base our projections on that. Again, pretty happy to see that generally speaking, our expenses are trending right at inflation. Even in the instance of Hogadon, where there's some pretty utility intensive operations, snowmaking takes a lot of power. So I think that we're doing a pretty good job, and you can see that historically our revenue is growing right along with our expenses, and that's what is helping us to keep that cost recovery performance pretty consistent over time.
Questions about the fund performance for Hogadon? Go ahead.
Not necessarily about the fund performance, but kind of continuation of my comments from earlier. We'd moved on to rec center, and I didn't want to backtrack. But I saw in the 5-year capital outlay, more expenditures for snowmaking equipment. And I guess I just want to reiterate my concerns. I don't think we need to be investing more in snowmaking equipment. I think that's a losing battle, especially like you said, with how utility intensive it is, rising cost of utilities, increasing scarcity of water. I just don't see that as a sustainable solution. I am curious though. I recently became aware of a concept called snow farming.
Oh,
I see some head nods in the back.
we utilize a lot of snow farming.
Oh, I did, preserving it over the summer months.
Mayor, Councilor. So at this point, not necessarily preservation over the summer months, although Ryan is, go ahead and go on that. He is exploring new technology that would allow us potentially to preserve large amounts of snow over the summer months. But in terms of snow farming, we generally talk about that in harvesting snow from snow fencing and then moving it to other areas within the speed runs to kind of bolster our snowmaking.
Yeah, so Mayor, Councilor, yes. Snow farming, like Zelina said, there's 2 different types of snow farming that you can do. Obviously pulling the snow off of the fences. I'd say now at the ski area, what we do is probably about 50% of snow farming off of those fences. We have a lot of buck rail fence that we pull snow off of. So when it does snow naturally, even a minimal snow, we can generate quite a lot of snow off of those fences, and it helps us throughout the year. As for what you're speaking about,
And parking lot snow too.
And
We plow
parking
the
lot
parking
snow.
lot snow and then use that on the slips.
Correct, yes. And so having that paved parking lot helps a lot with the clean snow that we can put onto the trail. But as to the technology that you're speaking about, it is new to the United States. They've had it in Europe for a while. I just attended a conference in Idaho where they spoke a lot on this. What's that?
Boise.
It was in Tamarack in Donnelly, Idaho, but Bogus Basin was there. They gave their feed on it. Big Sky gave their feed on it. And I do see that this is something that we should be looking into and definitely investing in. There is a lot of benefit to this technology. It is just something that we are just learning about now as a smaller ski area. I always like to say that Hogadon operates as a big mindset, but with a little ski area in mind. So it is something that we are looking into and I hope to expand upon. As for your snowmaking concern, I see that this is a way that will help with that too.
For the benefit of my colleagues, the snow farming, that I'm glad to hear you went to that conference. That's cool to hear. But Bogus Basin in Idaho are using this European technology. It's just heavily insulated blankets. You essentially build up a football field or so worth of snow. You put these heavily insulated blankets over it, and then at least in Bogus Basin's pilot study that they did, 80% of that snow remained during their previous snow season, their most recent snow season, which helps to lay the base, which when it does naturally snow, helps preserve the natural snow, because if you just got bare ground and the temperatures are not in your favor, that's just melting instantly. And so, that is something I know I'm turning into a bit of a buzzkill when it turns to Hogan. It's nothing personal, Ryan. My concerns though are sustainability. The snow farming, again, it's new to the US, but I'm glad to hear it's on your radar and that you're exploring it, because potentially that is an area that I could feel more comfortable with capital investment, because you're not using electricity, you're not requiring more water, you are preserving the snow that's already accumulated over the summer months and then using that as your base, which seems to be our big issue, is that developing that base in the early season. So, I'm all for skiing up at Hogan if it can be done sustainably. My concern is snowmaking is not sustainable. So I'm glad to hear that's on your radar, and I hope you keep us abreast of any updates along those lines.
Yes, definitely. And just again to talk about the snowmaking. Snowmaking would still be a large part of this. Snowmaking snow is a lot more durable than natural snow. Snowmaking obviously has a higher water content to it. And so when we are grooming every night at the ski area, this snowmaking snow does not break down because it does have that high water content to it. Whereas natural snow, it's more air and light, fluffy. So when you run over it or ski over it or snowboard over it, that snow does break down. And so it does not stick around as long as snowmaking snow does. So snowmaking is still a big part of this and would still have to be invested in for this snow farming technology to really take hold and take effect, to be used year after year after year again. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just curious what the elevation of Bogus is.
Oh, that, Mayor, Councilor, that I do not know off the top of my head.
I got you.
I'll
Sure.
tell you here in a sec.
So in Wally's,
5,800 feet.
Oh,
So
really?
they're much lower than
Summit is 75, base is 58.
this technology.
Comparable to-
As Councilor Gamroth stated, it is basically a blanket that you put over these snow piles. It's essentially like a concrete blanket, if you will. You set this over the top of it. When we were at this conference, Big Sky showed what they had on the hill at the time. There's a temperature inside and then the temperature outside. On the inside of their current blanket, it was 32 degrees. And on the outside, with the sun beating down on it, it was 116. And so they retain between 70 and 80% of their snow. So It is a little bit of time to get the snow into that pile, but it is worth it in the end. So.
Can I just, I appreciate your, further context about snowmaking, but correct me if I'm wrong, we gotta have at least 27 degrees or below to make snow, right?
Correct. So that is wet bulb temperature. So wet bulb is a mixture of the humidity in the air and the dry temperature. So yes, you need at least that in a wet bulb form.
So if we do not get cold, we cannot make snow.
Correct.
So was there any conversation at the conference about cloud seeding?
None of that. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else about Hogadon? Awesome. Thanks for coming up, man.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is the Ice Arena Fund performance. And this is one area where we see that our expenses in general are trending a little bit higher than the inflation rate, particularly starting in about fiscal year 24 and 25. I will say that the FY 29 spike is in anticipation of opening the second sheet. And so of course our expenses will tend to rise because of that additional expansion to the facility, but you see a sort of corresponding rise in revenue for those 3 years as well. And so didn't account for that in the inflation line there. And so, but that is sort of the explanation. And then you can see the projection for the total subsidy investment over time also starts to fully improve. And the trend line there can show you that it's fairly consistent with the inflation rate.
Yeah, go ahead, Pat. Yeah, one, two.
So I keep seeing in Oil City that, they can't start construction because I don't know if it's planning or zoning or building department keeps pushing back.
Mayor, Counselor, it's not entirely accurate. So we do intend to come back to council in July and give you a more detailed update on that project in particular. But I can give you a high level overview sort of what's happening now. So yes, we did have an initial viewing by planning and zoning that they did not support with good reason. And we've just gone back and done some additional homework that we needed to do to make sure that that body is comfortable in bringing a recommendation to the city council. But in addition to that, we've got construction drawing review that in fact has started this week. And so the entire plan for the expansion needs to be reviewed internally by engineering, by our building department, to make sure that everything that we're proposing meets code and all of those things. So that is a process that has to happen before we can go to construction. And in addition to that, our construction manager at risk is in the process of bidding the project. So we actually haven't even bid and we don't have a final cost. Final cost will inform the funding agreement with the donors. So there's a lot of things that need to happen in order for us to actually break ground and go to construction, and we're working on it. And again, we'll give you a little bit more in-depth update, but there's not one specific thing that's holding it up, and it's certainly not the Planning and Zoning Commission. There are just a lot of moving parts in a project this massive.
And if I could, why would we need a traffic study?
Mayor,
traffic could be
Counselor, as I understand it, it is a requirement for all, and Alex is here, but essentially we are saying that the second sheet will allow us to host more large events. And so realistically, this particular traffic study is less focused on day-to-day traffic and more focused on event traffic and what kind of impact that will have on the local surrounding streets when we have maybe both sheets with tournaments at the same time. And I think that that's a fair assessment that we should do to make sure that we're not negatively impacting the community without accounting for that.
I think Janine had something too.
And I think Zulema did a great job describing that. I would point down the street to Kenwood and Second as to why traffic studies are warranted when you are conducting a large-scale development. And as she said, there's regular traffic to the site, but imagine and layer on top of that as well episodic, large volumes of traffic related to events. So we want to be a good neighbor to that neighborhood, and a traffic study is one way we anticipate problems. We don't react to them after we've caused them.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle, sorry.
Thanks again, Zulema. I am curious why we project the expenses to increase. My understanding of the second sheet of ice is that expenses were to remain relatively stagnant, and then revenues, we were looking to essentially double.
Mayor, Counselor, so when we first started this project, we had a feasibility study conducted by Ballard King, their industry experts in these areas. Again, that was completed in 2022. And particularly when it comes to the ice arena, the cost in utilities, particularly power, has really influenced that. And so we know that we will have increased power expenses because of the second sheet. Personnel expenses, we expect to stay relatively flat because we're not necessarily adding personnel to operate that second sheet. But the carrying costs of the building have to be considered, and we want to be transparent and realistic about that. So we have adjusted our projections to account for the rising utility costs.
Still expecting personnel costs to stay relatively stagnant.
Correct.
Anything else about the ice arena?
And I would also say, again, we try to be fairly conservative. It is my goal that we're giving you realistic projections and not pie in the sky projections just to make it look good. So I believe that our revenue projections are conservative and that we will likely outperform. But again, we try to come with a plan that we believe is actually achievable. Okay, here is the Recreation Center Fund. And so again, the sort of anomaly that I explained when I went over their business plan in 23. So we saw so kind of a combo here. So you see the green line also spiked in 23. That was actually the result of a grant that we received from the Department of Family Services, but that was really, revenue in, expense out. So, I mean, we received the grant and then just turned around and purchased all the proceeds of the grant items that would serve primarily our summer camp program. But so that's the spike in revenue there. And then, of course, you saw a dramatic decrease from FY22 to FY23 in the expenses, and that's that personnel delta that I was talking about earlier. And so, but you can see that since 24, when we sort of stabilized the structure that we're currently in, our total subsidy investment is really kind of trending with that inflation line pretty closely. It is a high subsidy. It is our highest subsidized operation.
Any questions on recreation? Look at you, Pat. No, you're good. Okay.
So this is our sports and athletic fund, a shorter timeline because of course that fund did not exist before. And I'll just remind you that historically the athletics maintenance portion of this fund used to live in parks, which is general fund funded. So it was 100% subsidy or investment to maintain our athletic fields. So now it's combined with our sports programming and able to at least offset some of those expenses in athletic field maintenance. But again, this is a fund where we feel really good about our expenses trending right at our municipal cost index, and our subsidy does appear to be rising in those latter years a little bit faster than the inflation rate, and that's something that we will evaluate as we go to see if we can align those a little bit better. But in general, we feel good about the fact that expenses are being controlled right at around that inflation rate, and our revenue, you can see, continues to grow as well.
Questions about sports, athletics?
This is another area I would say, especially on the athletic maintenance side, we were fairly conservative in our estimates for what we could save from a maintenance standpoint by converting a lot of our fields to artificial turf. So really, once Field of Dreams is done, we'll have a much better idea for what we will realize in savings from a staff perspective. And then, you know, we have future plans to invest in artificial turf infields at other facilities, primarily Crossroads, and that's something that could happen as early as 28. So we'll be able to really refine those numbers a little bit better in the next 2 years.
Yeah, good, Pat.
You know, Selima, how Cheyenne has put all of those fields and stuff out. I think it's kind of around Menards, and I mean, is that part of their 6th sense strategy, or?
Mayor, counselor, I'm not entirely sure exactly what all of their funding sources are. I do know that they have been the benefactor of a particular grant that we are now very actively pursuing. And so, you know, I believe like us, they're looking at many opportunities. I would be surprised if they haven't utilized land and water conservation funds for some of their athletic field improvements, as well as we are doing the same. So I'm not sure, but we could research that a little more. Like I said, we caught wind of the grant, and that's definitely something that we want to pursue. But I'm not sure if, you know, the municipally funded portion of that is through their 6th Sense or.
Looks like Menards was built on a public recreational space, so they had to use the 5.3 million in land sale, reinvest it directly into the Parks and Rec. So that was a big part of it, sounds like.
Does it say anything about 6th sense?
Grants, fees,
Okay,
so looks like quite the diversity of.
okay.
The answer is probably simple. I've been staring at this chart trying to figure it out, but why is the subsidy higher than the total expense for this fund?
The case for
The
recreation.
case
center.
for,
Okay, I missed it too on there, but maybe it was in the bathroom.
that might have been a mistake.
Okay,
I need to just
well,
go back and look at that.
I mean, the trend line remains, you know,
I might have added instead of subtracted.
cool. Okay, well,
So I
It
will make
makes it
sure
look
they're
bad.
correct.
makes
I
it
will
look
make sure
bad.
they're correct before we provide the presentation to you all, which we of course.
Awesome.
Then this is the municipal golf course. Yes, that negative subsidy is correct. I do know that. Obviously, this fund is above 100% in terms of revenue. And so, again, you'll see that their expenses are trending a little bit higher than inflation, but we justify that because our revenue is also trending significantly higher than inflation. And so we reinvest those dollars in the fund to increasing our operational expenses to better serve the customer base there.
Questions about the golf course?
So does this take into account your sinking fund as far as the golf cart replacement and those type of things?
Mayor, councilor, no, this does not account for any fund reserves, which is what those dollars are held in reserve for our fleet replacement, as well as the reserve that we have on hand for other capital investments. This is just operational performance. So I suppose the green line above our expenses adds to the reserve amount. And yes, 50 of that is automatically called out for the cart replacement. Anticipating in just a couple of years.
Other questions?
Maybe not for you, maybe for Randy. I promised my friends I'd ask why we close the driving range at 5 on Mondays. Oh, all right, appreciate it. It's caught me a couple times now. We show up at 5 and ranges are closed.
When raining or anything, it's just.
They said that's the day, so they clean it and they pick it and then they, I assume, mow it.
Disposal for mowing for the
Yeah.
next day. That's-
So I assume Monday is like the least utilized day,
Yeah.
I imagine. It's the best day to do it, with minimal impact for users.
Randy was gonna go bust some skulls. I saw it in his eyes.
Should have him switch it to Tuesdays since you're here.
Yeah, I mean, is that how I can exercise my?
Can't go golf anyway.
Any last questions about that whole presentation? Anything that's, sounds like we got a lot of the questions answered. Okay, thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
to your
much.
staff and your,
Appreciate you.
everybody that put it,
Yes,
helped you
They
out.
really did exceptional
Nice work,
work. I'm very
Yeah,
pleased.
very, very good. Very good. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We're gonna be talking about Kenwood, actually. So I'm gonna hand that over to our city manager.
Mayor, Council, while Krista comes up to the podium, I'll share a little bit of background. As you know, in March, we had a new business open on the corner of Second and Kenwood, created a host of changes in that area of town affecting traffic, also neighboring businesses and public parking and access. I think you're all fairly conversant in this issue, so I won't give you a ton of detail. What I will tell you is you were able to see temporary measures that were put in place at that site to try to mitigate some of the problems. We subsequently devised a more long-term plan, which we met with the property owners that were affected recently to discuss and invite their comment on that long-term plan. And Krista is going to show you what that long-term plan looks like now that we have incorporated their comments and what the permanent corrective actions we will take down there will look like.
Mayor, councilors, I'm excited to talk about our plan for this area finally. In your council packet, you will see the map, and unfortunately it's not in digital format, so putting it on the screen won't help, but your one on your screen will give you the best plan. So after speaking with these property neighboring business owners, they had two things that they're most concerned about, and one of which was keeping the traffic or the parking on the east side of Kenwood perpendicular. We had initially proposed to do that as angled parking, providing the best entry and exit angles, but the businesses over there did not want that. They wanted to be able to have access coming from traffic on 2nd Street, so coming from the north in off business times. So we didn't want to go against their wishes for these areas because they're the ones that are most impacted for that. So we are keeping that side perpendicular. We will be changing the parking on the west side to angled parking, including shifting the ADA parking spot a little bit to the south. What this will do is remove a parking block that is impeding the exit from the city-owned parking lot onto Kenwood and heading south onto Kenwood so that they have a better turning radius there. Additionally, we are going to keep that center turn lane as that's allows traffic to queue in that area. We will also be installing a delineator post at that approach access between Kenwood and the greater city of Casper parking lot. One of the things that we found when we were researching this is that although property owners had agreements talking about parking spots for them, those were more of an informal agreement. They weren't in a formal fashion. And so in the intent of keeping with that agreement and the intent of our forefathers, we are working on, or the attorney's office is working on agreements to license agreements that would allow those businesses to continue to use designated spaces. So we are keeping with the numbers and the spots that were previously designated according to this map here.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Crystal, will those parking spaces be labeled or signed? Will there be signage saying they're designated for that business?
Mayor, Councilor, that's correct. We will put up city parking signs so that it is official and it is designated for those specific businesses as indicated on the map.
With the business name saying it? Okay. Can I ask one more? While we're on the part? So this is about the angle parking. So I understood that the idea behind the angle parking actually was making more sense to me on the east side. Because I was thinking that it was to allow those cars who were parked there easier access to
Get out.
escape and get back into the flow of traffic to get out. Yeah, so I'm not sure is that still the case on the west side of the street?
It is still the
They're
case.
having to they're going to back up and merge into traffic to go south.
Mayor, Councilor, yes, they are going to have a wider turning radius to get into that. But the business owners were so concerned about having their parking spots accessible when people were turning in from the north that they preferred keeping it perpendicular. And there is the space within our standards for it to remain perpendicular.
Don't tell anybody, but I always do that. I can do that. And I'm downtown all the time, but you get a diagonal parking space, even if you're not going in the same direction.
You know how
It's
to
the
drive.
diagonal, yeah. Pretty skilled driver, I don't know. I'll give lessons.
Got Amber that.
Well, I'll try it. Give me the key.
For the agreements for the parking spots, how are we handling that through is it an annual agreement? Is it into perpetuity? It's a city lot, so there's a chance that the use changes at some point in the future, right? So I'm just curious. From time to time this comes up where it was different processes at earlier times that people used to arrange these sorts of things. I can understand how it came to be, likely because there was a lot of concern when the street was changed and whatnot. So I can understand what that conversation of the day probably looked like. But just thinking about 8 councils from now who are asking, how did this agreement come to be when they're trying to make decisions about this property? So just curious about the thoughts there.
Good question through you, Mayor. Councilor Pollack. So we anticipate using a license agreement. And I think Wallace may want to weigh in as well, but I'll just say one of our goals has been to leave all of the people who will be sitting at this table in 20 years after we're long gone, a better track record and a better record to work with. If you want to speak to the terminability of a license agreement, that's the part I think is best left with your office.
Sure, we can do a lot of various things with termination. Most of our license agreements have language in them that if the city needs the land for another purpose, we can terminate in 30 days. Or if it needs to be longer, we can make it longer because of weather, because of other things. But with our that's why we do it as a license agreement, not a permanent easement that runs with the land so that we can terminate it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes good sense. I can't foresee a need for it right now, but I just don't want to be in a position where we have problems in the future. I certainly would hope that we could, if that were the case, we could, give some runway for folks to be able to make alternative plans in the future. But I was just curious how to not put somebody in the same position that we're in right now.
Exactly.
You guys searched for high and low for an agreement, and there was nothing, not even written on somebody's desk anywhere.
Impressive that somebody had that record. Well done. That's not me.
Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
So on, who is 1161 East 2nd?
Mayor, Councilor, I cannot recall the name of the business. It's Ink Paradise. And we've had a number of different businesses in there over the years. So I think we will stick with the address on that one and give them the same number of spots that we had previously, but make sure they have a little bit of flexibility in case that business shifts.
So is it down by Casablanca?
It is between Casablanca and Swan Studio in a small recessed building.
Thing that did like party stuff, right?
Oh, that's Archie's.
What is that one?
That's Archie's.
Oh, Archie's, yeah, that's right.
And then, if I could, Mayor,
You bet.
so in the past, Archie's has made his own agreement when, let's say, Advanced isn't using their parking or Swan has also let them use some spots if they needed them. So once we're done, are we, if nobody complains, like Advanced, is it fine for them to make their own arrangements, say Archie's with Advanced, or are we just going to be totally strict and?
You want to take that?
Micromanagement.
I think I'm gonna refer this to the city attorney's office on how to enforce this, right? So we're not gonna send our officers down necessarily. Do you have any thoughts on that, Wallace?
I don't know what those other agreements look like. Are they between two private businesses? They can always make an agreement with each other if it's land that they own, grant parking or easement on their own businesses. We have all sorts of access easements between private businesses to meet parking requirements. So if it's land that they own, they can do that.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's a civil matter?
This is city land.
They're allotted that parking.
And
An
then,
in-house deal. Hey, give me a free stirrup soda and you can use my spot for a month. You know?
Soda.
and then
Wheeling and dealing.
I know it's Stirrups property where the 4 parking spaces on their property. I've never seen anybody park there. A few times I've been by. But they have every right to do whatever they want with it, correct? So,
Counselor, yes, that's correct.
okay. And then one last one on the, I guess it'd be the west side of the street where you kind of see a green grassy area is what I'm interpreting at off the corner. Will there be any parallel parking in those, either one spot or 2 spots?
Mayor, Counselor, that strip, the right of way, the distance between the corner and the approach for our parking lot is too short to add parallel parking in that spot. So I would not suggest doing as such.
I haven't gotten any phone calls, so I'm assuming that Mr. Archuleta is in David made peace over the dumpster situation, and those things are resolved.
Mayor, Counselor, yes, they are sharing one larger dumpster now between them.
Okay. And then have we put into place up at the landfill, so that somebody else can't hijack somebody else's dumpster?
Mayor, Counselor, yes, that conversation had happened immediately after this occurrence, that whenever businesses are seeking to share a dumpster, that we check with both parties independently to ensure that we do not have a repeat of this situation.
Oh, couple people.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Amber.
I didn't have one.
Oh, I thought you did. Randy.
So just clarifying, the spots next to Swan Studios, there's like 6 or 7 of them. Those are public parking or those are Swan's property?
Those are public parking.
So the signs along their entire building that say customer parking, staying there? I ask because if it looks as though it is private parking for Swan only, but you don't have it listed as designated to just them?
Mayor,
So,
Mayor, Counselor, I might refer to the city attorney's office because that is public parking.
I mean, I guess it doesn't say what customer, but it certainly does imply that it is not public parking.
So that is in public right away.
Correct.
Well, then anyone can park there. They probably should get the signs down.
Mayor, Counselor, we will speak with them when we go to put the signs in the city parking lot to discuss that.
Thank you. It just seems like a lot since they have all those and then 2 in our parking lot too. So I just thought I would ask.
Gene said that updating it as far as public customer parking would probably be the. to say that. Michael.
No, I should have started with this, Krista, but just to say thank you to you and your staff and Janine and Ray. And I know there've been a lot of man hours, a lot of time and energy put into this. And I just want to say thank you for that. And then and I'm sure that our Madam City Manager is right on top of this. You mentioned something about process improvement in terms of the whole business of, the impact of business on traffic. And I mean, we're looking at, $4,000+ in man hours and some supplies and so forth. And I don't know if something like that could have even been foreseen, but I don't know what questions you would have asked to foresee it. But I think you're right. I think that is an opportunity for some improvement there. So
I appreciate that. I'd like to thank Public Services as well. They've spent a tremendous amount of time down there. And I asked them to start tracking it because it is significant. It adds up.
It is.
What I will say is, of course, I sent some information to the council many, many weeks ago when this brouhaha first rose its head. And business licensing is one way that the city could make a process improvement that would have helped head this off. That, of course, would require council action. Another piece would be potentially some refinements in your municipal code that would allow us to look at things like traffic studies, maybe more often than is allowed under the code currently. And so if that's something the council is interested in, we'd be happy to visit with you about that. It certainly, those policy changes come with trade-offs. For instance, when you require business owners to do traffic studies, they're often not really happy at the outset. But you're weighing and balancing the pros and cons of knowing ahead of time versus knowing after the fact and that kind of thing. So there are things that we could do. I think, as far as I know, most of them would require council action.
Thank you.
So, personal opinion, I'd leave Swans the hell alone, and let this thing die off, and not continue to stir the pot. Just my opinion.
Fun.
So, and number 2, it did take, and again, this is just me, but under the financial considerations, I appreciate it being there. But I took exception to that. I just see it as part of our jobs. And I know this one was pretty frustrating on a lot of fronts, but it does cost less man hours. And again, I appreciate seeing this, but I was like, okay, so is everybody supposed to just say there's not a problem and it's on city spots? And if I had it to do over again, the city never should have sold where the Stirrups location is and just left the whole lot as parking. So if that would have been, and that's 20, 30 years ago. So, and that would have avoided it all. So.
I just want to mention one other thing that I probably should have mentioned. This situation was a little bit unique from the standpoint of the city as an actor or a player in the situation, because typically we would just regulate the right of way, right? We would have gone in and put in a turning lane and we'd have done whatever we wanted with parking to try to maximize the safe flow of traffic, pedestrians, non-motorized things in that street. In this circumstance, we were wearing this hat of a government regulating our right of way and also of a neighbor, right? Because we own that parking lot down there. So it was complex, and I just want to acknowledge that and say that when I speak about things like traffic studies, I'm really referring more to the city in its governmental character as a regulator of our rights of way. And that's where a traffic study can be powerful. It would not have addressed the situation of us wearing the hat also of being a property owner and a neighbor to those properties. So this one was special because we had two hats that we were wearing.
One other thing that came up, Mayor, if I could, was this, I think it's called stacking ordinance. And I don't know if Kyle found that online or somebody brought it up previously, but I don't know if we still need to look at that down the line. City attorney's office is plenty busy with everything else. So, but I don't know if that's something we should look at because there's more to come. Because the old party time liquor, I don't know if we've had any calls on that. I don't know if he's opened up 2 lanes of dirty sodas is what he's transitioning from CBD to this. And I have heard of other instances of people seeing the success of Stirrups, wanting to put other locations in. So I maybe someplace down the line we should look at something like that or put process into place so that we don't end up. And lastly, I believe the Starbucks on Center Street is a huge example of a problem that the city totally participated. And I forewarned them at the time of blocking E Street into the hotel. And when we had major conferences, how it was going to be a problem. And I was assured by the city that that wasn't going to take place. It takes place to this day. And that definitely warranted a traffic study for sure. I also brought up the fact that I believe the alleyway needed paved and that the new business should pave that. And that went by the wayside. That was the city's call. So there's 2 sides to it too. So, just saying.
I will say I'll push back a little bit on Pat. I appreciated the financial considerations being put on there, the time of hours of our staff. I agree with you that this is our job. However, being intimately involved in this and the work that went into it, these guys got a lot of shouting and yelling. It was rough for them.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% behind our staff. And they did a ton of work. And so I appreciate putting this up there to say, you know what? Yeah, we're trying to figure this out. We're working with you. And so I have their back on this one. And I'm glad everybody came to a resolution, but staff took it pretty hard too.
I just wanted to reiterate that as well. I like the financial considerations because there were a few people commenting that, oh, the city doesn't care, the council didn't care, they're not doing anything about it. That shows that, yeah, we did care about it and things were done. That shows the impact that it had. So I appreciate having that on there.
Anything else? Oh, Randy, I'm sorry.
Randy's gonna speak.
I just don't ever look over by you. I'm sorry.
I just feel like every story does have a second side. And why am I always on the opposite side of Pat? But here we are. I mean, you guys both expressed the nice part, but I look at the financial consideration part. I want to see it because then when we decide to discuss whether or not we should be looking at traffic studies or business licenses, I can be like, well, remember that one
Remember
time?
that one time?
Let's put a dollar amount on that. How much cheaper would the traffic study have been? So I'm looking at it at that. But also, hindsight is a gift. And one of the reasons I do like you on here, because you are a wealth of all the knowledge. Why would we have assigned parking spots in a public lot? So we're going to learn so many things here, I think. The handshake deals that we're now making up for just get me all fired up right now. So I love that you know these things because, yes, I still want to talk about the stacking because this one, I think, I don't want to jinx them by any means, the neighbors or the business, but it might have calmed down a little bit. But I am a dirty soda person now, so I'm kind of excited. But if this were a problem on McKinley, it doesn't just affect neighbors, it's going to affect fire trucks and ambulances. So I do still want to talk about the stacking, and I didn't consider the formerly known as Parkway, whatever it is now known now by the Starbucks. So I do still want to know about the stacking and whether or not that's something we should talk about. And I do want to maybe one day, not today, talk about business licenses, but the traffic studies and those considerations. So yes, I want to argue with you every time we ever have a conversation, Pat. But also, I don't know. I'm also really glad you're here because I feel like I learned so
Public
much.
education.
I feel like I learned so much by us publicly educating.
Healthy debate. Janine really want to jump in real quick and then I'll get Amber.
I just wanted to address the stacking issue. So staff did research stacking requirements, and of course that's specific to drive-ups. Not all businesses are going to have that. Traffic plans or traffic studies pertain to all business, but stacking may be a way to address drive-up activities. Anyway, they did prepare a great memo. We're going to put it in your information packet. And then if, once you read that, you feel that you would like a work session to talk about maybe an ordinance change to implement something of that nature, then we can proceed forward with that. So they did a great job of researching it. We'll have it to you soon.
I think Janine may have just covered it. I was just wanting to get a little more, it felt a little nebulous, like what, are we wanting further action? Are we not wanting further action? Is there a direction or not? So I just wanted to see if we were trying to put something on a future work session or if we were just saying into the ether, at some point we should look at this.
We should probably
Just into the ether.
Thank you, Amber.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea that we do probably have something down the road to have a conversation on, on something like this in a work session. Stacking, ordinances, just kind of looking at the whole thing to say, kind of like what Janine was talking about, that there's some ways that we can look at it, certainly private business, you don't want to over-regulate, but in the same context, look what happened with this. Is that what you're kind of referring to, Amber?
Yeah, I think there are just like
memo.
3 different, if we want to wait to read the memo and then
Yeah.
make us like lose the thread once this issue is resolved and we forget about it.
Sounds good.
I may, we actually have on our grid for July 14th, vehicle stacking as a subject. So,
We did queue it up. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, good.
Good.
Thank you.
I'll get you the memo anyway, and then you'll be extra ready for the work session.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, she caught.
can let them go outside when we're done.
You caught them out.
Yeah.
She did it with a pair of chopsticks.
Right?
He's lucky right in front of you, man. I had my paper all logged.
Thanks,
up.
Krista.
Thanks, Krista.
Appreciate all your work on this.
Let them go outside.
All righty, let's go ahead and do any agenda review. I don't know if you have anything you need for us.
I don't, other than just to note, maybe this would be helpful. You do have third reading coming up next week on the moratorium. Work group for gaming met today. Please check your email inbox. I would say Thursday morning. We will send you an update and that will require some feedback from you. It will also pertain to third reading. So we'll get you some information by end of business tomorrow if you'll all look for that.
Anybody have any questions about the agenda coming up next week?
So did we decide to move July 7th, 5 o'clock, instead of 5:30?
No, I think there was a conflict for a couple counselors. So I think we're doing 5:30 on the 7th. Yep.
Okay.
And the memo will, or my email will go out in lieu of
Okay.
early meeting on July 7th.
Okay, great. And then if I could, on the 7th is the first night rodeo.
Right.
So my plan is to go to the fairgrounds for our 5 o'clock meeting and then get back here by 6 o'clock for the meeting. And then if permissible, then I'll, as soon as the moratorium is discussed in public comment, then I'll probably excuse myself and leave.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nope, I had to sit in the meeting
Mayor.
the entire time during CNFR, so you get no special privilege.
Pat, you can leave when you need to.
Thank you so much.
Just take whatever you need to. Great.
Great.
Thank
They
you.
weren't
everyone.
that kind to me.
Right.
All right, council around the table. I'll start with Michael McIntosh.
See, all I did this week, we had GPB this morning, finished passing our budget. That's about all we did. So that's all I've got.
Jenna.
Yeah, I think she already left. Left already, but y'all have heard now we have another 10 years with CNFR.
Yes.
So just wanted to give a big shout out. So she's probably listening somewhere, but to Zulima and her team, and then, you know, Jake and Amanda over at the Ford Wyoming Center were really good. We all kind of got together and did all the numbers and the in-kind and the county and the fairgrounds. And there were so many players in getting that. And then of course our talk and entertaining and, you know, influential motivational speaking and history lessons to all of those young athletes to make them realize the importance of their event staying here in Casper it took a lot, but I'm glad and it worked out. So we are excited. So thank you to all of those that put a lot of work into getting it here. So that's what I got. That's it.
Thanks, Jenna. Thanks for all your work.
Yeah. It was a lot of Pendleton. Just kidding. Long nights, entertaining them.
Take one for the team.
Don't
my
open
bad.
that door.
No. Randy.
Follow that, huh? I don't have a whole lot. We did Pat and I hung out all day today. Kept you guys super busy. Thank you, by the way, to everyone that joined us in that committee for an extra hour because we're needy. Tomorrow's politics in the park. It's the governor candidates. Thursday's municipal band at the band shell at Washington Park. Both of them are at Washington Park, so guess where I'll be all week.
Then Friday, sorry.
What's Friday?
Friday night, there's a Tabernacle Choir celebration, it's 150th year. The entire community is invited. We're going to have the pickleball courts, swimming for free for an hour, as well as a lot of lawn games, food trucks, and then we're gonna show the Tabernacle Choir's 150-year celebration with the 250.
Wait, are they
Celebration of
actually
Saint-
coming? this
No,
way?
it'll be
Is-
projected on a big
okay.
screen. It's a pre-recorded Hollywood Bowl event that they've
Well,
performed.
I've
so
got to listen to them in person.
Very cool, and it
So moral of the
Makes me
story,
cry.
every night, the
Every
rest
night
of the
this
week, Washington
Washington
Park,
Park,
all the
starting at
things.
5:30 on Friday.
And I feel like that's good enough for me, so I'm done.
I have homeless coalition tomorrow, and I'm glad to be back in person.
Yeah, I'll be back.
And that out in the ether isn't any fun, is it?
What?
Being out in the ether
No,
instead of.
it's like, yeah, you miss a lot.
Last Wednesday, I did Wyoming Business Alliance lunch up at Casper College on some of the data. I forgot to bring the flyer out. Try to remember to bring that. On the 18th, had MPO. Actually, I finally figured out that it's every other month. And then hats off to Visit Casper on the, was the balcony called this year?
Oh, Rockstar
Right,
balcony
yeah,
for government night.
yeah, government night. That was great. And Friday, LGBTQ advisory actually had quorum, and so that was great. And got a lot of minutes approved and talked about pride, in which I missed. So, but sounded like the weather somewhat cooperated for Saturday. So it was cold. And then I did make it out for Lemonade Day, but didn't
see at my stand.
well, I didn't get the memo. I almost called you because I found none in North Casper.
There's a lot downtown area and then
But,
all over town.
a few of them.
So did you get any?
but I did get one glass at on McKinley Street. So kid flagged me down, and I was
3 booths at Ace Hardware. I had to drink from every single one.
Right. Can't pass them up. Support them kiddos.
Can't give one kid $1 and not the other.
yesterday, the Disabilities Council, which thankfully only lasted about half an hour, ran out to the Business Alliance deal out it, which was pretty fascinating. So, and then I appreciate your push, but and I do recognize the amount of crap that Krista took in particular, and which totally is unwarranted. But I still stand by my.
Yeah, I was expecting not to go back down, Pat.
Don't let him
I
have the
still
last
love ya.
word during yours now.
Still my favorite counselor.
Yeah, right.
Thought I would.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
See, you can't.
Can't trust him.
Amber.
You're at the end of the table.
Well, I was out all last week, so I don't have many updates, and I wasn't at the LGBTQ advisory meeting, but I can at least update, thanks to the aquatics folks for helping us make a quick shift from PV pool to the aquatics center due to the weather. We had 50 people come swim, so I'm glad we had somewhere for them to go, and I think we had to do a lot of last minute kind of maneuvering, but they made it work for us, so that was great news. And about 2,000 at the David Street event, so yeah, super well attended, and everything went well. There's one more event this month yet to come. I think it's this Saturday. We're gonna go see the Spuds game and go shop for books downtown. So if people are looking for information on that, you can find it on Casper Pride's website.
Awesome. Vice Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. It's really busy the past week, but not really Casper-centric stuff. CNFR was nice Thursday night. Congrats on the 10 years. Very exciting. And then, yeah, Lemonade Day, I just want to thank the community. This was my 3rd year doing it with my daughter, and everyone's just so generous and supportive. And I just, it's a reminder of why I like living in Casper. When people come out and support each other, it's just good vibes that day. So, yeah, just want to thank everyone that went out of their way to get lemonade. And it's a cool day to live in Casper. That's all I got.
There's a couple things. CNFR went to that government night. That was really nice time. As always, I snuck out. I had to teach all weekend, but I snuck out to do a little lemonade day, and I swung
Didn't
by.
see you either.
Not his
saying.
ward.
Fresh squeezed.
Where I went was fresh squeezed too.
Strawberry puree?
No, that wasn't.
That's what I did.
No,
You
no
stuck in your-
lavender.
That would have been great, though. That's a great idea.
Next year.
Store that away.
Yeah. And I did also get a chance to go by the Father's Day event hosted by the Casper Housing Authority. A lot of great nonprofits there. A lot of great. It was really nice to be able to be a part of that. As well. Politics in the Park on Wednesday. I always encourage people to get to those just to see the elected, those that are seeking election, that are going to affect policy, local policy, to be involved in that. So bringing my kids to that, making sure young people get involved, trying to bring along some kids that are going to be voting for the first time to these events as well. So.
Oh, your moth's gonna get out. I think the moth is dead.
Oh, and one more thing. More thing, we do have a card for Liz. You want to mention your staff?
Yeah, when we get off camera.
Okay. Please have a card here, and so I'll have you guys sign that. So. All right, that's it.